Yeah, good afternoon, honorable guests, I'll say, because everybody is an honorable. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me, please? Hello? Can you hear me, please? Hello, can you hear me? Oh, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's good to be in your midst today. I thank Mrs. Soshodi especially for the invitation. She kept on at me for quite a while. Thank you very much. It's a great privilege to be here and to be a guest speaker alongside with such celebrated people as Power Obaya. It's nice to hear you speak, sir. I listened to what you had to say and I was greatly blessed. So today we're going to be talking about quality early childhood development and the opportunities. But before we go into that, can we just wish our children a happy Children's Day? Because really, I mean, what we're doing today is about the children. It's to ensure that the children get a good head start in life. And that's why we have this program, so that we can enlighten ourselves and ensure that we prepare a good foundation for our children. And, as I say, from time to time, what we do for our children, we in reality actually do for ourselves, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that are going to be at the helm of affairs way down the line, and we will be old and dependent on them, just as they had been dependent on us for some time. So happy Children's Day. But who is a child? Who is a child? The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child defines a child as a human being below the age of 18 years. Or maybe we can put it differently, that a child between the period of infancy when the child is born, and I listened to Professor, I forgot her name now, right? And she said something about life starting even from conception, which is so true. So we're talking about a person between the developmental period of infancy, or possibly when the child was conceived, because at that point in time, the child had come into existence. And if the mother, for instance, does not prepare an enabling environment, when the child is born, the child is going to have some issues. It could be that of drugs, or if the mother is into drugs, or if the mother has HIV or whatever, the child will be born with all of those things. And so, in fact, childhood starts from period of conception right on to puberty. Now, the UNESCO defines early childhood care and education, which is what we're talking about, the quality of early childhood development. The UNESCO says early childhood care and education is more than the preparation for primary school, because most of us just feel that, well, I mean, it's just to get them ready for primary school and possibly, I mean, as they go on in life. But it aims, early childhood development, it aims at the holistic development of a child's social, emotional, cognitive, and physical needs in order to build a solid and broad foundation for lifelong learning and well-being. And so when we're talking of early childhood development, we're talking about actually projecting into the future. And so if we want to know what our world will be like, or Nigeria will be like in 2040, for instance, we need to look at the development of the children, or the kind of provision that's being made for their childhood development even now. So it has to do with nurture, it has to do with caring, it has to do with capable and responsible, for them to become capable and responsible future citizens. Now, we know that the first 3 years of life are one of very rapid growth and development. because that's the time when even those things, well, apart from the physical development that we see, that is, the child gets bigger. I mean, when the child is born, you know, for the first 2 weeks, the child will lose a lot of weight, right? But then after that, the development starts, physical development. But once those physical development that we can see are going on, also development of the brain starts, you know, happening. So the brain itself creates complex neutral pathways at a very, very high speed. And that is why, you know, after a while, the child is able to walk, the child is able to say, ma, ma, the child is able to say, da, da, and so on and so forth. And at such periods, the opportunities for development, the environment of the child is very, very crucial. And so the early experiences that the child has, I would say within the home, which is the first port of entry of the child, within the home, are very, very crucial to how the child will turn out. Whether the child will be good, whether the child will be bad, whether the child will be slow, because all of this will lay the foundation for a child's future survival, future health, future growth, and future well-being. And what are these things that we must look out for that early childhood development? We have to look out for the nutrition. The child has to be fed nutritious food, good for the child. I mean, at birth, of course, breastfeeding is advocated and all of that, because that is the best food for the child at that point. But of course, if that food will not satisfy the child, then, I mean, the mother is advised to supplement with some other things. But we are advised that breast milk is the best for the child or for a baby. And of course, as the child starts growing, there are certain things that the child must continue to eat and feed on so that physically the body will develop as expected. The brain also, the brain cells will also be fed adequately. And so that's important. But then, what about the environment, as was earlier mentioned? Parents' behavior is very, very crucial. Does the parent even converse with the child? Remember that it's only in human beings that we have children staying with parents, you know, up to age 18. Other animals, you know, as soon as they have their children, some of them just, I mean, maybe after a couple of weeks, the animals become independent of their parents. But because human beings need a lot of nurture, they are left with their parents for up to 18 years. And so the models for these children will be their parents. The parents will be the models for these children, modeling what, I mean, they should expect. And of course, the children will be learning. So, I mean, of course, we know that they do have an absorbent mind very early on, and they just mop up everything. They believe everything that the parents are doing are just the best for them. And so they mop it up. So it is very important that parents' behavior are positive such that will gear the child in the right direction. But of course, after that, I mean, parenting style, which had been mentioned earlier on, as different from the parents' behavior. Parenting style could be authoritarian or authoritative, or it could be permissive, and so on and so forth. That is also very crucial. So, which means that the child learning and development of the child is not solely dependent on the teacher. It's not. You know, it is the whole environment that will help in these early years, you know, early years of development for the child. So there's the social and cultural practices, and of course the environment. That is very, very important. So we know that the children, they grow up to become adults in the society. And so we must ensure that we nurture them in such a way that they'll become useful adults, adults that can learn in the society, adults that can run the affairs of this nation. Because remember, if we put in just like the computer, the computer language that says if you put in garbage into them, then all you're going to get coming out will be garbage as well. So the formative years are very, very critical. And any society that does not ensure quality in early childhood development is setting up itself for failure. But in the past couple of years, maybe about 20 years, I'll say, the world has continued to evolve, and we find that, well, children's lives have improved. I'm talking worldwide now. They have improved in recent decades. But then there are some particular issues that are rearing their heads, that they're about to sort of negate even this progress that has been made in terms of early childhood development of the children. Persistent inequities and lack of opportunities presently endanger the futures of millions of children in Nigeria and around the world. We understand that about 43% of children, which is roughly put at about 249 million children now, that are under 5 years of age in low and middle income countries, are at risk of poor development due to extreme poverty. And unfortunately, we've now been told that Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world. So what do we do? Millions more are deprived of the caring and nurturing environment that they need to thrive. So quality early childhood development is being threatened. It is being threatened in our world today. And if we domesticate it, in Nigeria, it is being threatened. Even though international organizations like UNICEF, they've done quite a lot to ensure, that there is a positive pathway, and that children, or that the society itself and governments recognize the importance of early intervention, in childhood development. Not too much is being done. And we have a lot of challenges, I would say. Even though, their own optimal developmental potential are set out in their own vision, which they keep, telling all nations, because the UNICEF is, involved in all nations. And of course, Nigeria is one of those nations. And their own thrust is that every child must survive. So mortality, should reduce. A lot of interventions have come, to ensure that that happens, but they should not just survive. They should thrive. Children should thrive. And the only way they can thrive is that all the necessary, the platform has to be set to ensure the environment has to be right, the parents have to do the right thing, educationally, it has to be right, and the environment itself, the society has to be right. Remember, the child is brought up by the entire society. Even if the society, the entire village, as we normally put it, does not have direct contact to the child, but really they do, because the child can see, even though you're not talking to the child can see that car, for instance, has driven poorly. The child can hear that person is talking down, derogatory, on some other person. And so the entire village has an impact, the entire community has an impact on the quality of early childhood development. So UNICEF also says part of their vision is that every child should learn, which means that every child, should learn. But learning, I don't want to restrict it to schooling, but that is also important. Schooling is also important. And so within the communities, the mothers, especially within low-income communities and possibly the IDPs and all of those ones, they need to be sensitized as to what constitutes learning. Yes, there's a formal part, but what about the informal part? What is the role of the mother in ensuring that the child learns? Because, I mean, for instance, in a home where there's even no communication, I mean, you have a 2-year-old in the house, you don't even talk to the child. You assume that that child cannot understand you or something. You don't talk, you don't communicate that, oh, I mean, bring this. What's your name? Put up your hand, put it down, whatever. All of those things go to stimulate the senses within the child. And that is also part of education. The third one is that every child must be protected from violence and exploitation, and that every child, the fourth will be every child must live in a clean and safe environment. And of course, that every child must have an equitable chance in life. Now, we know that for us in Nigeria, that may not be so true, and that there's so much that we need to do. The data about out-of-school children in Nigeria is so staggering. It's so staggering. I mean, we're told that out of every 5 children that are out of school in the world, 1 of them is in Nigeria. So it's a very sorry state. And of course, when they're talking of out-of-school children, they're probably not even talking about those in early years. Those ones are not even being counted. There is no adequate provision for children that are under, that should be in preschool, in nursery school, in Nigeria, because I know I know that, I mean, the age of school starts at age 6, but then what happens to the early years? There are a few public early year schools, but they are so few. They're so few, and I mean, not enough, especially to serve the low income, of our community. And so something needs to be done in that area. Evidence has shown, of course, that the brain building process is fueled, as I said earlier on, by adequate nutrition. What kind of nutrition are our children enjoying? With the level of poverty, I wonder, I mean, what nutrition is available to our children, I mean, that's going to create a problem, because the development of the brain will be affected, and the future of the nation will be affected, projected to, let's say 2030, 2040, and that is a problem, and that's something that we need to, start considering. Our children, are they being protected from violence? Apart from the violence, insecurity state of our nation, the kind of possibly movies, the kind of music that they listen to engenders violence. And some of us, we now use the computer or the social media or the computer, I'll say, as a babysitter. So which means that, a lot of things that the children should not even be exposed to, the child will be exposed to it. Environmental toxins, of course, there's pollution. And I don't know what is being done about that, but pollution is also another irritant that will affect childhood development. And so that quality that we desire may not be easily attained. Then responsive stimulation, which is a core element of, nurturing care, which the child needs, is also something that, is not readily available. And so, I mean, I'm surprised. I came across something that was a report that was done by UNICEF 2017, and it was presented to the commissioner, I mean, to the Minister of Health. That's 2017, that's quite a while, but I'm sure that things have deteriorated even further. And that report said that Nigerian children are at risk of underdevelopment, both physically and mentally, because critical national policies that will provide adequate foundation for their growth are not in place. But then I don't even see, I mean, some of the things that are mentioned as being the critical policies, I mean, I don't really see them happening. I mean, I think part of their own recommendation is that the pre-primary education, of which most of the ones that are available are private ones, but now talking about public pre-primary education should be for at least 2 years. The one we have presently is only for 1 year. That is, I'm talking about the public schools now. Another recommendation is about, maternity leave. It's claimed that, I mean, they have proposed that maternity leave should be for 6 months. A paid maternity leave, that is, should be for 6 months. But then how easy is that? However, maybe the people that we're even talking about now, the majority of the people whose children may not be able to access quality, I mean, early childhood development, may actually not require maternity leave. I mean, if we put that in quotes, because they're probably self-employed, traders and things like that. And so they're able to be with their children much longer than people that are that work in offices and things like that. And so they are proposing that UNICEF is proposing that maternity leave should be for 6 months. And they're also proposing that there should be paternity leave. I think that's funny anyway in Nigeria, that there should be paternity leave as well, 4 weeks paternity leave. We don't have that. Presently, the maternity leave that is enjoyed is 3 months. I'll say that these recommendations are difficult to implement in Nigeria. And I don't see how that can work. And so we need to think of other ways in which that an awareness can be created within the populace as to giving our children quality childhood, development opportunities. Now, whose responsibility is it? That is providing quality childhood developmental opportunities. Whose responsibility? Of course, I mean, from what I've said so far, we know that the parents, it's primarily the responsibility of the parents and the home. And of course, the environment in which that child will grow up, is growing up. But then the school also has a responsibility. The school has a responsibility. The early years environment, that is the nursery or preschool, must have rich curriculum, impactful activities, and qualified and experienced teachers. So that's also critical. Thirdly, I mean, of course, government has an overwhelming opportunity. I understand my time is up. Government has has responsibility of creating awareness, of encouraging people and ensuring the facilities that is required, are provided, especially in early childhood, education. And again, the entire society is also responsible, because really the entire society, the whole village, looks after a child. I'll just quickly skip this and then go on to well, we know that, so all we're saying is that, for quality early childhood development, the long-term benefits will be improvement in the cognitive skills of the child, the social emotional skills that the child would have acquired with the interaction between home, school, and the environment. And of course, when the child grows up, the child will be a useful member of society, and that is key. So we know that early childhood education is the key to the betterment of society. That's Maria Montessori. And Nelson Mandela also said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. But by education, is not necessarily, we're not necessarily talking about schooling. Education is all encompassing. The society is also key. And so any society that wishes to grow, develop, and advance, to become a superpower or to become the best in the world, must not neglect quality early childhood development and opportunities of its citizens. Thank you.